I never thought my own wife would be the one to kill me. There I was, flat on my back in that freezing hospital room, machines beeping like a dying heartbeat, tubes snaking into my arms and down my throat, every breath a razor dragging through my lungs. The sterile smell of disinfectant clawed at my nose, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps. I had poured everything into our marriage. Late nights at the office, building the company from nothing, ignoring every red flag because I loved her with a stupid, blind kind of devotion. And then she walked in, heels clicking sharp on the tile, that same lavender perfume she used to wear for me, now making my stomach turn. She leaned over the bed, eyes cold as winter steel, and right in front of the doctor she whispered, "This useless piece of trash has lived long enough." Her fingers wrapped around the breathing tube and yanked. Pain exploded through me like fire. The room spun into black, and as I gasped my last, I heard her soft laugh. "Without this burden, we can finally be together. Derek, the baby in my belly is yours. Everything he built, it's all ours now." How could the woman I'd cherished, the one I'd defended against the world, look me in the eye and choose betrayal like that? How does a man who gave his whole heart end up choking on his own blood while she smiled? But here's the part that still sends chills down my spine every time I think about it. I woke up. Not in heaven, not in some afterlife. I woke up years earlier, back in my old body, sitting at my desk in the company office I'd poured my soul into. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, warm on my skin, the faint smell of coffee from the break room drifting in. My heart hammered against my ribs like it wanted to burst out. Every memory, the hospital, the tube, her laugh, the child that wasn't mine, it was all still there, crystal clear, burning like acid in my veins. Reincarnation. A second chance. I gripped the edge of the desk until my knuckles went white, breath coming fast and shallow. This wasn't a dream. This was real. And this time, I wasn't going to be the fool who trusted too easily. This time, I was going to make them regret every single second they spent stabbing me in the back. I forced a calm smile onto my face as the door opened. In walked my wife, Rachel, or as I sometimes called her in those early days, looking just as beautiful as the first time I fell for her. Her hair was pulled back in that sleek ponytail I used to love running my fingers through, and she had that bright, innocent smile plastered on like nothing had ever happened. Behind her trailed Derek, my so-called friend from overseas, dressed in a flashy suit that screamed, "I'm better than all of you." My blood boiled, but I kept my voice steady, almost warm. "Rachel, you're back early. And you brought a guest?" She beamed like she'd just won the lottery. "Liam, Derek just got back from abroad with all these cutting-edge ideas. I thought he could tour the company, give us some fresh perspective, modern management techniques and all that." I felt the bile rising my throat, but I swallowed it down. In my past life, this exact moment had been the beginning of the end. Him swaggering around like he owned the place, her defending him while I played the gracious host. Not this time. I stood up, extended my hand, and shook his like we were old buddies. "Welcome back, Derek. Make yourself at home. Feel free to look around. Put your feet up on the desks if you want. We're all family here, right?" His smirk was instant. He plopped his shoes right on my conference table like it was a footstool. Rachel giggled and shot me a look. "See? He's got experience from overseas. Our domestic style is so rigid. You should learn from him, Liam. Don't be so petty." My fists clenched under the desk, nails digging into my palms until I felt the sting. I could see it all playing out again. The way he'd badmouth our operations, the way she'd twist every word to make me look small. But instead of snapping, I leaned back in my chair, heart racing with a cold, calculated thrill. No problem at all. If Derek has ideas, let's hear them. In fact, we've got a new project starting up soon, something called Pulse. Why don't you take a look? Give us your expert opinion. I'll even have the team prep a full presentation. Derek's eyes lit up with greed. Rachel squeezed his arm, her touch lingering just a second too long, and I pretended not to notice. Inside, though, my mind was already 10 steps ahead. Pulse would be the bait, the dummy project full of flashy but worthless details. I'd feed them just enough to make them think they were stealing gold. Meanwhile, my real plan, the one burning in my chest like a secret fire, was already forming in the shadows. Vibe. A short video platform with an AI algorithm so advanced it would change everything. I developed the core of it in secret during late nights in my past life, never sharing a line of code. This time, I'd build it alone, under a new shell company, with people I could trust. Marcus, my loyal right-hand man, was already on speed dial. The rest of the day dragged like a slow-motion nightmare. Derek strutted through meetings, pointing fingers, demanding 3-month timelines for plans he didn't understand. Rachel hung on his every word, shooting me glances that said, "See, this is what a real man looks like." My chest tightened with every fake laugh I forced out, the weight of betrayal from 2 lifetimes pressing down like a stone. But I smiled wider. "Great ideas, Derek. We'll incorporate them. In fact, let's give you 60% of the Pulse profits up front. You've earned it." Rachel's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed with suspicion. "Liam, you're agreeing? Just like that?" I shrugged, keeping my voice light even as rage simmered underneath. "Why not? If it helps the company, I'm all for it. You two have been working so hard on this. I'll even throw in a thank you bonus once it launches." Inside, I was already picturing the trap snapping shut. The fake data leaks, the planted evidence, the moment their stolen success would turn into their downfall. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement, the kind that makes your skin tingle and your stomach flip. This was just the beginning. They thought I was the same weak, trusting husband from before. They had no idea the man sitting across from them had already died once and come back sharper, colder, and ready to burn their world down. That night, after Rachel slipped out for a late meeting with Derek, I sat alone in our empty living room. The clock ticked too loud in the silence, the couch cushions still warm from where she'd sat earlier, pretending everything was fine. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, the liquid burning down my throat like liquid fire, and stared at the city lights twinkling outside the window. My reflection in the glass looked the same. Same face, same tired eyes, but everything inside me had changed. No more blind love. No more second chances for traitors. I pulled out my phone and texted Marcus. "Start the shell company tonight. Real project only. Pulse is bait. Keep it quiet." His reply came instantly. "On it, boss. You okay?" I typed back one word. Better than ever. Because for the first time since waking up in this second life, I felt alive. The game had begun, and I was the one holding all the cards. The next morning, the sunlight felt different, sharper, like it was cutting through the fog of my old life and illuminating every lie in the room. I was already at the kitchen counter when Rachel finally slipped through the front door, her hair slightly mussed, that same lavender perfume now carrying the faint trace of someone else's cologne. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face soft, pouring her a cup of coffee like the devoted husband I used to be. The ceramic mug was warm in my hands, steam curling up like smoke from a funeral pyre. "You're back late," I said, voice calm, almost gentle. "Everything okay with the project?" She paused in the doorway, eyes flicking over me like she was sizing up whether the old Liam was still there. "Yeah, Derek and I were just going over the details for Pulse. He's got some incredible overseas insights. User interface tweaks, algorithm optimizations. You should be thanking me for bringing him in." She took the coffee without a thank you, her fingers brushing mine for a second too long, like she was testing me. Inside, my blood was roaring. I could picture it so clearly now. The way she'd whispered to him in the car, the way their laughter had probably echoed in whatever hotel they'd ducked into. But I smiled wider, leaning against the counter, the granite cool under my palms. Thanking you? Rachel, I'm the one who should be grateful. You're right, he's a genius. In fact, I've been thinking, let's bump his share to 80% of Pulse's profits. The company can afford to play the long game if it means we blow up fast. Her eyes widened, that spark of greed flashing across her face like lightning. 80? Liam, you're serious? She set the mug down a little too hard, the clink echoing in the quiet kitchen. I mean, yeah, of course. He's earned it. Without him, this project wouldn't even get off the ground. I nodded, heart pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. Exactly. And hey, if you two need to meet more, go for it. I trust you completely. The lie tasted like ash on my tongue, but it felt good, powerful. In my past life, this kind of conversation had ended with me begging her to come home early, voice cracking with insecurity. Now, I was the one setting the trap, watching her walk right into it. She hesitated for a second, like she smelled something off. But then she laughed, that light, airy laugh I used to love, and pecked my cheek. You're finally starting to get it, Liam. Don't worry, I'll make sure Derek knows how generous you're being. As soon as the door clicked shut behind her, I let the mask drop. My hands shook as I gripped the edge of the sink, knuckles white, the cold steel biting into my skin. Bile rose in my throat again, sharp and bitter. How many nights had I spent like this in the first life, staring at the same walls while she was out, working late? I forced a deep breath, the air tasting of yesterday's takeout and regret. No more. I grabbed my phone and called Marcus. Marcus, status on the shell company? His voice came through crisp, loyal as ever. Locked in, boss. Registered under a clean name, Phantom Labs. Team's already building the skeleton for Vibe. Interface looks clean, visuals pop. We've got the basic framework installable by next week if we push. Good, I said, voice low, the words tasting like victory. Accelerate everything. I want the core algorithm locked down and ready to demo in secret. Pulse stays the shiny distraction. Feed them dummy data, make it look like gold. But Vibe? That's ours. No leaks. Recruit only people we can trust. New blood, fresh contracts. And change your computer password to your birthday. Standard OPSEC. We're playing in the shadows now. He chuckled, but I could hear the steel in it. You got it. Boss, you sure you're okay? This whole thing with Rachel and that overseas clown, it's eating at you, isn't it? I stared out the window at the city skyline. Cars crawling like ants below, the distant honk of traffic filtering through the glass. Eating at me? Marcus, it's fueling me. I died once because I trusted too much. This time, they're going to choke on their own greed. Just keep the real project airtight. I'll handle the home front. The rest of the week blurred into a carefully orchestrated dance of deception. I went to the office every day, nodding along while Derek strutted through meetings like he owned the place. He'd slam his hand on the table, demanding timelines for features that didn't even exist in Pulse. And Rachel would shoot me these triumphant little glances, like she'd finally upgraded. My chest would tighten every time, visceral, like a fist squeezing my heart. But I'd laugh it off. Brilliant, Derek. Really groundbreaking. Let's fast-track it. Inside, I was counting the days until their fake empire crumbled. One evening, I came home early and found Rachel on the phone in the living room, voice hushed, the blue glow of her screen lighting up her face in the dim light. The room smelled like her perfume and takeout, the TV murmuring some mindless drama in the background. I stepped in quietly, shoes silent on the hardwood. Who was that? I asked, casual as ever. She jumped, ending the call a little too fast. Just Derek, finalizing some details for the project. Why, you spying on me now? Her tone was sharp, defensive, eyes narrowing like she was daring me to push. I shrugged, dropping my keys on the counter with a metallic clink that cut through the tension. Spying? Rachel, I'm just asking. If he's helping us that much, I'm all for it. In fact, Tell him I'm thinking of giving him even more responsibility. Maybe we make him a co-lead on Pulse. You two seem to work so well together." She relaxed a fraction, but I caught the flicker of confusion in her eyes. "You're not mad?" "Liam, you've been acting weird lately. One minute you're all in, the next you're smashing stuff in the office. What's going on with you?" I crossed the room, pulled her into a hug that felt like holding a live wire. Familiar curves, but now they made my skin crawl. The scent of her hair, once comforting, now twisted something deep in my gut. Weird? Maybe I'm just tired of being the guy who holds everything back. I've been thinking a lot about us, about the company. This is growth, Rachel. Trust me. My voice was steady, but inside I was screaming. Memories of the hospital flashing like lightning, her fingers on that tube, her laugh as I died. I pulled back and smiled. "Go meet him if you need to. I'll handle dinner." She left again that night, heels clicking down the hall, and I stood there in the empty apartment, the silence pressing in like a weight on my chest. The city lights outside blurred through the window as tears, angry, hot tears, pricked at my eyes for the first time since waking up. Not sadness, rage. Pure, burning rage, mixed with a cold, surgical determination. I sank onto the couch, the leather creaking under me, and opened my laptop in the dark. The screen's glow lit up my face as I reviewed the encrypted files for Vibe, the real heart of everything. The algorithm was already singing, lines of code I'd perfected in secret across 2 lifetimes. This wasn't just revenge. This was rebirth. Marcus texted me an update. "Framework's live. Test users in the new company loving it. Pulse team still thinks it's all about their dummy project. We're 10 steps ahead." I typed back, fingers flying. "Keep it that way. The climax is coming. They'll beg for mercy soon enough." As the clock ticked past midnight, the weight in my chest eased just a little. I wasn't the broken man from the hospital bed anymore. I was the architect of their downfall, and every lie I told, every smile I faked, was another brick in the wall I was building around their futures. Rachel thought she'd traded up. Derek thought he'd hit the jackpot. But they had no idea the man they were underestimating had already stared death in the face and come back swinging. The days that followed blurred into a haze of calculated smiles and hidden fury, each one another brick in the wall I was building to bury them. I'd wake up before the sun, the apartment still heavy with the scent of Rachel's perfume from the night before, and I'd stare at the empty side of the bed where she used to curl against me. My chest would ache with that old familiar pain, the one from the hospital bed, the one I'd sworn never to feel again. But now it was fuel, sharp and cold, sharpening my focus like a blade. I'd text Marcus before breakfast. "Update on Vibe?" His replies were always quick, always solid. "Skeletons live, test users hooked, algorithm singing, Pulse dummies still feeding them junk data. They think they're geniuses." At the office, the charade grew thicker. Derek had practically moved in, feet up on my desk like he paid the rent, barking orders at my team while Rachel hovered at his side, her hand brushing his arm a little too often. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows on their smug faces, and the air smelled of stale coffee and cheap cologne. I'd sit there in meetings, nodding like a puppet, heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. 80% is locked in for you, Derek, I'd say, voice steady as steel. You and Rachel have poured their souls into Pulse. I'm just the guy writing the checks. Inside, I was screaming, picturing the moment their stolen success would explode in their faces. The way her laugh would turn to ash when she realized I'd been 10 steps ahead since the day I woke up reborn. Rachel started testing me more openly. One night, she came home reeking of hotel soap and his aftershave, lips still slightly swollen, and I greeted her at the door with a warm hug like nothing was wrong. The fabric of her blouse felt too warm under my fingers, carrying traces of a life I no longer wanted any part of. "Long day?" I asked, forcing warmth into my voice while my stomach churned like I'd swallowed glass. She pulled back, eyes searching mine for the crack she expected. Derek and I were finalizing the pitch for that big investor, Henry Voss. He's interested in Pulse. You don't mind if I present it with him, right? Your management style is just so traditional. Her tone dripped with that familiar condescension, the same one that had once made me shrink. Now it made my blood sing with anticipation. I smiled, the expression tight on my face. Mind? Rachel, I'm proud of you two. Take the lead. In fact, tell Henry it's all your vision. I'll even step back completely. Let you shine. The lie slid out easy, but later, alone in my study with the city lights bleeding through the blinds, I gripped the edge of my desk until my knuckles cracked. Tears of pure rage burned at the corners of my eyes. Not for her, but for the man I used to be. The one who would have begged her to stay. I whispered to the empty room, voice raw. You want the spotlight? I'll give you the whole damn stage. And watch it burn. Marcus and I met in secret that same week, in a dingy cafe on the outskirts where the coffee tasted like burnt rubber and the booths smelled of old cigarettes. Rain pattered against the window, blurring the street outside into streaks of neon. Vibes ready for a shadow demo, he said, sliding an encrypted drive across the table. His eyes were steady, loyal, the kind of friend who'd had my back through 2 lifetimes now. Core algorithms locked. User engagement metrics are off the charts in testing. Pulse is still the shiny distraction. They've been feeding Henry the fake plans all week. I nodded, the weight in my chest easing just a fraction as I pocketed the drive. Good. Set up the real meeting with Henry for tomorrow. Make sure Rachel and Derek think it's their big break. I'll be there, in the background. Let them swing first. My pulse thrummed with that dangerous mix of fear and power, the same rush I'd felt right before the tube was ripped from my throat in the last life. This time, I was the one holding the blade. The meeting day arrived, like a storm cloud rolling in. The conference room smelled of polished wood and nervous sweat, sunlight slicing through the blinds in sharp golden bars. Henry Voss sat at the head of the table, a sharp-eyed investor with a reputation for cutting through bullshit. Rachel and Derek strutted in like they owned the place, her in that tight red dress I used to compliment, him with a flashy tablet full of stolen slides. I hung back near the door, arms crossed, heart slamming against my ribs as I watched them set up. Rachel cleared her throat, voice honey-sweet. Henry, thank you for coming. This is our vision for Pulse. Derek's overseas expertise brought it all together. We've got the full plan here, executable prototype ready to launch. She launched into the pitch, words flowing like she'd rehearsed them in bed with him, while Derek nodded along, smug as ever. I could see the greed lighting up Henry's eyes as they detailed features that were nothing but smoke, dummy code I'd planted myself. Then came the knife. Rachel turned, eyes cold as she pointed straight at me. And this is all possible because Liam here was kind enough to share company resources. But let's be honest, the real brain behind it is Derek. Liam's just the domestic guy who got lucky. The room went still. Henry's brow furrowed. My blood roared in my ears, but I kept my face neutral, the old hospital memory flashing, her fingers on that tube, her laugh as I died. I stepped forward slowly, voice low and even. Actually, Henry, there's been a misunderstanding. The plan they just showed you? It's from a project called Phantom Labs. My real one. Vibe. Short video platform with an AI algorithm that's light years ahead. Pulse was never the main course. It was the bait. Rachel's face drained of color, her perfect lipstick suddenly looking like a clown's smear. Derek sputtered, "What the hell are you?" I cut him off, sliding my own tablet onto the table. The real demo loaded. Clean interface, addictive scroll, engagement numbers that made Henry's eyes widen. Here's the executable version. No dummy data. Real users already testing it in secret. And the algorithm? Mine. Developed alone across nights you two were too busy working late to notice. My voice didn't waver, but inside I was shaking with the raw, visceral triumph. The kind that makes your skin tingle and your breath catch. I could see the exact moment the trap snapped shut in their eyes. Henry leaned forward, intrigued. Liam, this is impressive, but they claim you stole it. Rachel exploded, voice shrill. He's lying! Derek brought the idea from overseas. Liam's just jealous, trying to sabotage us. She lunged for the tablet, but I pulled it back calmly, the weight of 2 lifetimes steadying my hand. Derek went pale, sweat beading on his forehead. This is bullshit. We have proof. I smiled, cold and sharp. Proof? Like the data you stole from my servers? Or the hotel receipts Marcus's team quietly logged? I nodded toward the door. 2 of my security guys stepped in, expressions flat. Gentlemen, escort Mr. Derek downstairs. Make sure he gets to his car safely. As they grabbed his arms, he started yelling, but a sound cut off when the door closed behind them. Rachel whirled on me, eyes wild with panic and fury. Liam, what have you done? You'll regret this. I stepped close, voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. The lavender scent of her now choking me like poison. Regret? I died once because of you, Rachel. This time, I'm the one walking away from the hospital bed. My heart was a war drum in my chest, every beat screaming victory and grief all at once. The love I'd lost, the betrayal that had forged me anew. Henry cleared his throat, breaking the moment. Liam, I want to hear more about this vibe. The rest of you, we'll talk later. As the room emptied, Rachel stood there frozen, face twisted in disbelief. I felt the first real crack in the armor I'd worn since waking up. The hot sting of tears I refused to let fall. Not yet. The revenge was just getting started, but God, it hurt to watch the woman I once would have died for realize she'd lost everything. That night, alone again, I sat on the balcony with a glass of whiskey. The city sprawled below like a glittering battlefield. The wind carried the distant hum of traffic, cool against my heated skin. My phone buzzed. Marcus. Derek's accident on the way home handled. Broken legs, nothing fatal, yet. Vibe metrics spiking already. I typed back, throat tight. Good. Next phase, the divorce papers. She's going to feel every second of this. The weight in my chest was heavier than ever, but for the first time, it felt like something I could carry. I'd stared death in the face and come back. Now they were the ones about to learn what real pain felt like. The door slammed open so hard the frame rattled, and there she was, Rachel, storming into the apartment like a hurricane in heels, her red dress rumpled from the frantic drive back, mascara already streaking down her cheeks in angry black rivers. The lavender perfume hit me first, mixed now with the sharp tang of fear sweat and expensive wine she'd probably downed in the car. I was still on the balcony, whiskey glass loose in my hand, city lights blurring below like distant stars I no longer cared about reaching. My heart slammed against my ribs as she rounded the corner, eyes wild with the same fury I'd seen in the hospital that last time. Only now I was the one holding the power. "Liam, you bastard!" she screamed, voice cracking like thin ice. The sound echoed off the high ceilings, raw and ugly. Nothing like the sweet laughter I used to chase. "What the hell did you do? You humiliated us in front of Henry Voss. Derek's in the hospital. His legs shattered. They said it was a drunk driver, but I know it was you. You set this whole thing up." I didn't flinch. I set the glass down on the railing with a soft clink, the cool night air brushing my face like a warning. Inside, my stomach twisted into knots, bile rising hot and bitter, the same taste as when that tube was ripped from my throat. Memories flashed, her fingers, her laugh, the baby that wasn't mine. But my voice came out steady, almost gentle, the way I used to talk to her when she was upset about nothing. Humiliated? Rachel, I just showed the truth. Pulse was never real. Vibe is. And Derek? He walked into that accident all by himself. Greed does that to people. She lunged forward, grabbing my shirt collar, nails digging into the fabric like she wanted to claw my heart out. Up close, her breath was hot and sour, eyes bloodshot and desperate. You think you're so clever? I know what this is. You've been planning this since when? You've changed, Liam. You're not the spineless husband I married anymore. Give me the algorithm, the real one, or I swear I'll drag you through the mud. Half the company, the house, everything. I'll tell the world you stole it from Derek. Her words should have broken me. In the old life, they would have. I'd have fallen to my knees, begging her to stay, promising to fix it all. Now? I felt the rage coil tight in my chest, hot and alive, but I wrapped it in ice. I gently pried her fingers off my shirt, the touch of her skin once electric, now making my skin crawl like touching a ghost. Half? Rachel, you already took more than that in the last life. Remember? The hospital? The tube? The child you said was his? I let the words hang, watching her face drain of color, eyes widening in shock. She stepped back like I'd slapped her. How do you know about that? Her voice dropped to a whisper, trembling. The apartment felt smaller suddenly, the walls closing in with the weight of 2 lifetimes. I could smell the rain starting outside, pattering against the glass like tears I refused to shed. I smiled, cold and sharp, but inside, my heart was cracking open again. Grief for the love I'd lost, fury for the betrayal that had killed me. Doesn't matter how. What matters is this ends tonight. Sign the divorce papers. You get $3 million cash, the shares you handled in the old projects, and whatever personal stuff you want from the house. That's it. No algorithm, no company stake, no more nights working late with your overseas genius. Walk away clean, or I make sure every investor, every reporter, every friend knows exactly who you are. She laughed then, a broken, hysterical sound that echoed in the empty room, but her hands were shaking as she snatched the folder I slid across the coffee table. The papers were already there. Marcus had prepped them days ago, airtight. You're bluffing. You still love me. You always have. Without me, you're nothing. Derek and I built this. Built what? I cut in, voice rising for the first time, raw edges showing. My fists clenched at my sides, nails biting into palms until I felt the warm sting of blood. The room spun a little, sensory overload. The rain now hammering the windows, the distant thunder mirroring the storm in my chest. You built lies. I built everything else. And I died for it once. Never again. Tears burned at the corners of my eyes, but I blinked them back hard. This wasn't sadness anymore. It was release. The weight I'd carried since waking up in this second chance, it was lifting, one painful inch at a time. She stared at the papers for what felt like forever, the clock on the wall ticking louder than my heartbeat. Finally, with a sob that tore something deep inside me, she grabbed a pen and scrawled her name, the ink smearing from her tears. I hate you, Liam. You'll regret this. I'll make sure of it. I watched her pack a suitcase in silence, the zippers rasp like a final cut. When the door slammed behind her, the apartment went dead quiet except for the rain. I sank onto the couch, head in my hands, the leather cool and familiar against my back. My body shook, not from fear, but from the raw, visceral flood of it all. Relief, grief, triumph. I'd just ended the marriage that had killed me, and it still hurt like hell. But there was no going back. Marcus's text buzzed in. Papers filed. Vibe metrics up 300% overnight. Henry Voss wants a full partnership meeting tomorrow. You okay, boss? I typed back, throat tight. Never better. Push the open source teas on the core algorithm. Let the big players smell blood in the water. And get the team ready. We're going public with Vibe in 2 weeks. The next days became a whirlwind of controlled chaos. I threw myself into work like a man reborn. Because I was. The office buzzed with new energy, fluorescent lights no longer feeling harsh, but bright with possibility. Marcus and I locked down the Phantom Labs shell, folding it into Lumoratech seamlessly. The algorithm drop, partial, strategic, sent ripples through the industry. Big names started calling, major platforms, retailers, even the big tech giants. I sat in meetings where CEOs who once ignored me now leaned forward, eyes hungry, the air thick with the scent of expensive suits and desperation. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the conference room gold, Secretary Sophia slipped into my office with a stack of reports. She was sharp, poised, that quiet confidence in her eyes, making the room feel a little warmer. Liam, the numbers are insane. 50 million users in under a month, and the algorithm tease has them all circling. Her voice was soft but steady, a contrast to the storm Rachel had left behind. I looked up from my screen, heart doing something unfamiliar. Not pain, but a cautious spark. Sophia, you've been carrying half this load. Thank you. Really. Inside, I wondered if this was dangerous, letting someone close again. But her smile, genuine and warm, chipped at the ice I'd built. Dinner tomorrow? Just to go over the launch details. No pressure. She nodded, cheeks faintly pink. I'd like that. As she left, I leaned back in my chair, the city lights flickering on outside like a promise. Vibe was exploding. Short videos going viral, engagement through the roof, the AI pulling users in like a magnet. I felt alive, powerful. But the ache in my chest lingered. Rachel's face from that night haunted the quiet moments, her sobs mixing with the memory of her betrayal. I'd won the first battle. The war was just heating up. And for the first time since waking up in this body, I let myself believe I could build something real again, without the poison of the past. The launch of Vibe hit like a thunderclap nobody saw coming. I remember the exact moment the numbers started rolling in, sitting in the dim glow of my office at 2 a.m., the only light coming from 3 monitors and the faint city haze bleeding through the blinds. My eyes burned from staring at the dashboards, but I couldn't look away. 50 million users in the first week, then 100 million overnight. The short video feeds were flooding with dances, pranks, life hacks, real people connecting in ways the old platforms never touched. My algorithm, the one I'd bled over in secret across 2 lifetimes, was pulling them in like gravity. I could feel my pulse hammering in my temples, a mix of disbelief and raw, electric triumph that made my hands shake as I gripped the mouse. The office smelled of cold takeout and fresh coffee Marcus had brewed hours ago, and outside, the distant wail of an ambulance reminded me how close I'd come to never seeing this. Marcus burst in, face split with a grin that could light up the whole building. Boss, we just crossed 200 million registered! Live users spiking at 100 million concurrent. The big platforms are throwing billions at ads trying to catch up, but they're drowning. This is it, Liam. You did it! I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking under me, and for the first time since waking up reborn, I let out a laugh that started deep in my gut and rolled out real. It felt foreign, light, almost free, but the ache in my chest was still there, a dull throb reminding me of the cost. Rachel's face flashed in my mind, her sobs from the night she signed the papers, the way her hands had trembled. I pushed it down. We did it, Marcus, but we're not done. Tease the partial open source drop tomorrow. Let the giants smell it. I want them begging. That same night, my phone lit up with notifications I couldn't ignore. Rachel had gone live on some third-rate platform, eyes puffy, voice dripping with venom as she spun her story to 10 million viewers. He stole everything from Derek and me, she sobbed into the camera, the cheap ring light casting harsh shadows on her face. I was the one who brought the ideas. He used me, then tossed me aside like trash. And now he's living it up with that secretary of his, Sophia, the homewrecker. The comments flooded in, some sympathetic, most turning ugly fast. My stomach twisted, bile rising sharp and hot. I could smell the ghost of her lavender perfume just thinking about it, feel the phantom weight of her nails on my collar from that last fight. For a second, the old me, the one who would have called her begging, surfaced, heart cracking open. But I crushed it. I'd died for that love once. Never again. I called Marcus at dawn. Press conference tomorrow. Invite Henry Voss, every major outlet. We end this publicly. My voice was steel, but inside I was a storm. Rage and grief churning like the rain that started hammering the windows as I spoke. The press room was packed the next day. Cameras flashing like lightning, the air thick with the scent of polished wood, nervous sweat, and expensive cologne. I stood at the podium in a simple black suit, heart steady for the first time in weeks. Henry Voss sat front row, nodding supportively. Reporters fired questions, but I waited until the room quieted. Some of you have heard the rumors from my ex-wife's live stream. Let me be clear. I never stole a thing. Vibe is mine. From the first line of code I wrote alone, through nights she was out working late with Derek. The algorithm, I built it. The vision, mine. And today, I'm opening part of the core to the public, because progress shouldn't be locked behind one man's greed. The room erupted. Flashes blinded me. Questions flew like bullets. Then Rachel's voice cut through from the back. She'd crashed it, face twisted in fury, Derek hobbling beside her on crutches, legs still in casts. "He's lying!" she screamed, voice raw. "He used company resources, my connections, everything. Derek brought the overseas tech. Liam's just a thief who got lucky." Security moved, but I held up a hand, calm on the outside, while my blood roared. I could feel the old hospital memory clawing up, her fingers on the tube, her laugh as the world went black. My chest tightened, breath catching, but I leaned into the mic. "Henry, you were there for the pitch. Tell them what really happened." Henry stood, voice booming with authority. "Liam showed me the real prototype that day. Pulse was a smokescreen. These two tried to pass off stolen work as their own. I've seen the timestamps, the code origins. It's his." Gasps rippled. Rachel's face crumpled. Derek looked ready to collapse. I felt a vicious satisfaction bloom in my gut, hot and sweet. But underneath it was the ache. Watching the woman I once loved shatter in real time, her mascara running like the tears I'd held back for so long. The press conference went viral. Vibe's numbers exploded past 200 million. The partial open source drop sent shockwaves. Big tech CEOs calling my private line at all hours, voices eager, almost desperate. I sat in meeting after meeting, the conference table cool under my palms, the scent of fresh coffee and ambition thick in the air, turning them down one by one. "Not for sale," I'd say, smiling that cold smile I'd perfected. "But I'm open to partnerships that benefit everyone." That evening, Sophia found me on the balcony again, the city lights twinkling like a promise below. She handed me a fresh cup of tea, her fingers brushing mine. Warm, steady, nothing like the poison I'd known. "You were incredible today," she said softly, wind tugging at her hair. The lavender was gone. Now it was just clean rain and her subtle citrus scent. My heart did something unfamiliar, a cautious flutter instead of pain. "But I saw your face when she showed up. You okay?" I set the tea down, staring out at the skyline, the weight in my chest easing as I spoke the truth for once. "It hurt, Sophia. More than I thought it would. I loved her once, gave her everything. She took the tube from my throat in the end, metaphorically at least. I didn't explain the reincarnation. Some secrets stayed buried. But watching her break today, it closed a chapter. I'm free." She stepped closer, shoulder brushing mine, and for the first time in 2 lives, I didn't pull away. "You deserve that freedom, Liam. And if you ever want someone who won't make you choose between love and survival, I'm here." We stood there as the rain started again, soft and cleansing, washing the last traces of the old life off the balcony railing. My phone buzzed. State officials, big names, even hints of national interest in the algorithm for public good. Vibe wasn't just mine anymore. It was becoming something bigger. I felt reborn, truly this time. The grief still there, but lighter. The triumph solid in my bones. Marcus texted later. Livestream shut down mid-rant. Her numbers tanked. Clients pulling out left and right. She's done in this industry. I smiled into the dark, the city humming below like an audience waiting for the next act. Good. Let her feel what it's like to lose everything. My turn to build something that lasts. The days after blurred into pure momentum. Vibe dominated the holiday sales. $70 billion in revenue, Henry's platform skyrocketing alongside it. I was the new face of American tech. Interviews, awards, even a quiet nod from higher-ups about national internet safety. But in the quiet moments, alone with Sophia over late dinners, the sensory details grounded me. The clink of silverware, the warmth of her laugh, the way her hand fit in mine without demanding my soul. I was healing, slowly, the scars from the hospital bed fading under new memories. Yet I knew the real test was coming, the industry summit where the giants would try one last desperate swing. Rachel and Derek weren't finished. They'd link arms with Henry's rivals, accuse me publicly, try to drag me down. My pulse quickened at the thought, that familiar mix of fear and fire. I'd died once. I'd lost everything. This time, I had the algorithm, the allies, and a heart that was finally learning to trust again. Let them come. I was ready. The summit hall was alive with the low hum of power, the kind that smelled like fresh ink on contracts, aged leather briefcases, and the faint metallic tang of expensive watches clicking under fluorescent chandeliers. I stepped through the double doors with Sophia at my side, her hand light on my arm, and for a heartbeat, the whole room seemed to pause. Cameras flashed from the press pit, the air thick with whispers, and the distant clink of champagne flutes from the networking lounge. Vibe had made me a name now. 200 million users, 70 billion in holiday revenue. I was the young visionary who'd cracked the code the giants couldn't touch. Yet my pulse still raced like it had in that hospital bed. Sharp, alert, every sense dialed to 11. The carpet under my shoes felt too soft, the overhead lights too bright. And Sophia's perfume, clean citrus and something warmer, wrapped around me like a promise I wanted so badly to believe. She squeezed my arm, voice low and steady against the noise. You've got this, Liam. After today, no one will dare question you again. Her smile was soft, eyes bright, and in the quiet dinners we'd shared lately, the clink of glasses over fine wine, her laugh cutting through the silence of my empty apartment, I'd started letting the walls crack. She listened when I talked about the old scars, never pushing, just there. But something in the way her gaze flicked toward Henry Voss's table made my gut tighten, a shadow of the old paranoia I couldn't quite shake. I pushed it down. Not everyone was Rachel. Not everyone wanted to pull the tube. We took our seats near the front as the opening remarks droned on. My phone buzzed once. Marcus. Everything's wired. If they swing, we swing harder. I nodded to myself, the weight in my chest a familiar companion now. Part grief for the marriage I'd buried, part fire for what came next. Then Henry Voss stood at the podium, microphone in hand, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. The lights dimmed slightly, spotlight pinning him in place, and my blood turned to ice. Today I have something I can't stay silent about, he boomed, eyes sweeping the crowd before locking on me. We're all here to celebrate innovation, but some of us build on stolen dreams. Gasps rippled, cameras swung. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I felt it in my throat. Rachel rose from the back row like a ghost from my nightmares, Derek hobbling beside her on those crutches, his face still bruised from the accident. She looked thinner, eyes hollow with rage, That lavender scent I used to love, now carried on the air like poison as she marched forward. "Liam stole everything," she cried, voice cracking with practiced tears that still twisted something deep in my gut. "Derek brought the overseas tech. I helped him refine it while Liam was too busy playing the humble husband. He used company resources, my ideas, then tossed me aside for his little secretary. Vibe is ours. He's a thief who got lucky." Derek leaned into the mic next, voice hoarse. "He sabotaged me, had me run off the road, and now he's parading around like a hero while my life is in ruins." The room erupted in murmurs, phones recording, flashes popping like gunfire. I sat perfectly still, the chair's leather cool under my palms, every muscle locked. Inside, the old hospital memory roared back, the beep of machines, the yank of the tube, her laugh as blackness took me. My breath hitched, bile rising sharp and hot, but I kept my face calm, the way I'd practiced in the mirror every morning since waking up, reborn. Then Sophia stood. My world tilted. She stepped to the podium beside Henry, her hand brushing his shoulder in a way that wasn't professional, and my stomach dropped like I'd been punched. "I'm sorry, Liam," she said, voice trembling but eyes hard. "I tried to warn you. I love you, but I couldn't let you keep stealing from the man who actually created this. Henry and we've been together. I only got close to protect what was his." The words landed like blows. The room froze. I felt the heat rush to my face, the sting behind my eyes, not from tears, but from the raw, visceral betrayal slicing open wounds I thought had healed. Her citrus scent suddenly turned sour in my nose. Dinners, late nights, the way her hand had fit in mine. It had all been a setup. My chest burned, the weight crushing, and for a second I was back in that bed, dying again. Henry grinned triumphantly. "Liam, you have one choice. Dissolve Lumoratech, hand over Vibe, and confess. The authorities are ready. Your wife and I have the proof." The silence stretched, heavy enough to choke on. I rose slowly, the microphone cool in my grip, heart hammering but voice steady as steel. "Proof?" I echoed, letting the word hang. "You mean the dummy files I fed you? The algorithm snippets I let Sophia steal because I knew exactly who she was working for?" Murmurs turned to shock. I kept going, every word a blade. I died once because I trusted the wrong people. This time, I learned. Vibe was always mine. And you three just walked into the trap I built the day I woke up and decided never to be weak again. Rachel lunged forward, screaming, but security held her. Derek's crutches clattered. Sophia's face crumpled in disbelief. The room was chaos, reporters shouting, cameras zooming in on my face. My pulse thundered, sweat prickling my collar, the air suddenly too thick, too loud. I felt the old rage and grief collide, hot tears threatening, but held back by sheer will. This was the moment I'd waited for across 2 lifetimes. The one where their world cracked the way mine had in that hospital. Then the doors at the back swung open with a heavy thud that cut through everything. 2 men strode in, flanked by aides, and the entire hall went dead silent. I recognized them instantly. Dr. Harlan, the grizzled director of the National AI Institute, and Director Reynolds from the Federal Tech Oversight Board. Dr. Harlan's voice boomed, deep and commanding, as he held up a thick report. "Enough of this circus. This young man is no thief." This comprehensive study on advanced deep learning and AI systems was compiled under my direct supervision, with Liam as lead author. The industry has already endorsed it for widespread use. Every line, every algorithm principle, bears his name and ours. Director Reynolds stepped forward, eyes sharp behind his glasses. "We have monitored Vibe since its inception. The open source elements Liam released, they align perfectly with national internet security and innovation initiatives. He has provided core technology to key projects without asking for a single dollar. This man has given more to this country than any of you could dream. Accusations like these are not only false, they border on undermining American progress itself. The room exploded in flashes and shouts. Rachel's face drained of color, her scream dying in her throat. Derek slumped against his crutches. Sophia staggered back, eyes wide with horror as the realization hit. Henry Voss's mouth opened and closed like a fish yanked from water. I stood there, the weight in my chest finally cracking open. Not collapsing, but releasing. Tears slipped down my cheeks now, hot and unashamed, because in that moment, I felt the full circle. The death I'd survived, the love I'd lost, the betrayal that had forged me. Dr. Harlan caught my eye and gave a single nod, the kind that said, "You did well, son." Security moved in, escorting the three of them out under a storm of cameras. I stepped off the stage, legs steady for the first time in what felt like forever, the applause washing over me like rain after drought. Outside in the corridor, Marcus clapped my shoulder hard, eyes shining. "Boss, you just ended them. Authorities are already moving on the fraud charges. Henry's empire is done. Sophia and the others, prison time ahead. And we just acquired major assets at a fire sale price." I nodded, throat tight, the city lights outside the windows blurring through the glass. The lavender was gone. The hospital beeps were fading. I was free, truly free. And as the adrenaline ebbed, leaving me raw and exhausted and alive, I whispered to the empty air, "Rachel, you finally feel it now, don't you? What it's like when the person you trusted yanks everything away." I'm still trying to process all of this. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to hear more of my journey, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell.